Future of Teaching. Conversation with global leaders. Powered by Sinha. What will teaching look like in 2030?
Welcome to the Future of Teaching video series where leaders from different walks of life share their thoughts on how teaching is expected to evolve in the next 10 to 20 years, and maybe also share a little bit about their own journeys and their own teachers. So today we have a very special guest with us, Dr. Pramath Sinha. Pramath is very special for me for two reasons. One, he's a pioneering force driving transformation in the higher education space in India. And two, he's a former colleague and friend and someone whom I have respected very deeply. So welcome, Pramath. Wonderful to have you with us today.
No, Ramya, thank you. The privilege is all mine. I'm so proud of what you are doing, and I'm so inspired by some of the exciting things that you've achieved in a very short time at Sinha that I feel privileged to be on this podcast. Thank you.
Thank you, Pramath. So Pramath is an alumnus of the Indian Institute of Technology, Kanpur, and subsequently also did his master's and PhD from the University of Pennsylvania in the US. Incidentally, IIT Kanpur also recognized Pramath a few years back with the Distinguished Alumnus Award. And not a surprise at all, because as I said, Pramath is a pioneering force driving change in the higher education space in India. He's founder and chairman of Harappa Education, which strives to become India's largest online institution focused on teaching habits and skills critical to workplace success in the 21st century. He's also founding dean and member of the executive board of Indian School of Business, ISB, and founder and trustee of the acclaimed Ashoka University, a liberal arts university, which also launched the popular Young India Fellowship. Other than that, Pramath has had a trailblazing career track record, including as a media entrepreneur at the 9.9 Group, CEO of Anand Bazar Patrika, and before that, partner at McKinsey and Company. So Pramath,
yeah,
after all the after so many achievements and all the things that you have gone through, all the things that you have contributed, and I'm sure still a long way to go, is there a school teacher whom you still remember as someone who has impacted you deeply?
Yes, Ramya. There were so many of them, but I guess because I have stayed in touch with her even till today, I would like to single out Mrs. Gauri Ishwaran. She's become very famous now, but in the early days when I was growing up in Patna, she started her teaching career in my school.
Oh.
And she started with my section of my ninth standard at St. Michael's, Patna, where she taught us English.
Oh.
And then she again taught me English in class 11 and class 12. We had a different teacher in class 10. But Mrs. Ishwaran had an amazing influence during the years I was in school. Not so much from the teaching of English as how she pushed me to do more in some of the extracurriculars that I was involved in at that time. Somehow I lost touch with her for many years because she moved to Delhi. I went off to college. She started Sanskriti School, became the founding principal. I heard about her. Then I came back to India and started working in Delhi many years later, made contact with her and have stayed in touch with her throughout, including these days, even more in contact with her, bringing her into Harappa to talk to our employees and inspire them. And also, just meeting her socially. In fact, she has an outstanding invitation with me to come and have dosas at her place. So it's been a very a fond and warm and affectionate relationship. What has been most inspiring, of course, is the early days in which she pushed me to go beyond my comfort zone when I was in school. And over the years, how she has inspired me and really supported me and been a real cheerleader for me throughout the latter half of my career as I got involved in education. And then she and I often use her as a sounding board, even though she's not involved in higher education, to give me ideas and to react to thoughts and challenges that I might be facing in the institution building that I do. And I've always found her advice to be spot on and very insightful and almost like an aha moment every time I ask her something. So yeah, I think that is one person I would single out. And as you can tell, I'm just very taken with her and she's still part of my life.
And so inspiring that she's still part of your life and still playing an active role after so many years.
One other story which is very relevant, and I often tell this story. So, I said that, you built so many institutions now. Tell me, what's the one secret sauce, one magic potion that one should put into educational institutions? So she said, Pramath, you've been involved in so many institutions and you've gone to some nice ones. You should know the answer to this. I said, no, I'm you are acting like I should know, but I don't. What is your answer? So she went back to St. Michael's Patna, despite all her experience. And she said, when I came to first teach you guys, this is an all boys school. She had just graduated from college, so she must have been very young. I don't remember her in that sense. But she said, you guys gave me such a hard time because I was a new teacher and maybe I was a bit fumbling and I was not so confident. And so all these boys, 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds, you guys gave me a real terrible time. And I used to think, kahan phas gayi main, right? In the teaching profession. So one day she said, I was so frustrated. I went to the school principal and I told him that father, he was a Jesuit priest. I can't do this. And she said, I was in tears and I said, listen, you forced me to do this. I can't do this. I'm not doing this. I'm leaving. So she said, he calmed her down. He said, okay, tell me what's going on and so on. And she said, but how do I control my class? What am I supposed to do as a teacher? There's so much to do, right? And she said that I have never forgotten. He turned around and he said, just remember one thing. What you have to do is to find ways to make your children happy. That's the only thing you have to focus on. Now, I think that's a very profound statement because it's not about making things fun for children or pleasurable for children. It's actually a different kind of happy, right? It's the happy with the learning, happy with their growth, happy with their fulfillment, happy with them feeling like they're getting challenged, right? And that's so true, right? That this is the whole thing we talk about, engaging with kids, their holistic development, and so on and so forth. So I've never forgotten that story as well. And I often tell that to educational administrators, when I'm trying to get new programs started or when somebody joins. I think it's a very good benchmark to test what you do in an educational institution. Are your children happy? And so I get so much satisfaction when parents come to me and say, listen, my kid goes to Ashoka and I'm so happy. And then Mrs. Ishwaran's term comes back to me, right? Because they're not saying happy from oh, I'm really happy, right? They are happy because they are satisfied. Or kids say, we are really happy at the school. And so much of Indian education, we are actually always dissatisfied. that
yeah.
it carries even more weight.
No, these are fantastic stories, and so glad to hear this. And this actually, brings me very nicely to the next thing, which I wanted to get your thoughts on, which is now we are at a very interesting point where, on one hand, we have gone through several decades in some ways where teaching as a profession sort of declined, and you didn't necessarily have lots and lots of such stories doing the rounds, to being at a point where that dialogue has intensified, that yes, this is something that we need to course correct as a society. We need to bring back respect to the profession. We need to look at growth, etc. And in parallel, there are other things that are happening. The role that technology plays, the role that a pandemic played in between, etc. Given where we are now, which is an interesting and probably a complicated point, where do you see teaching evolving from here in the next, say, 10, 20 years?
It's hard to say where it'll end up, Ramya, but all I can tell you is that there are profound and fundamental changes taking place. And I'm not a cry wolf kind of person who says, oh, everything is changing, everything is collapsing, everything is getting disrupted. But I do see some very deep and fundamental changes taking place. And let me tell you what those are. Where these will evolve to, I think nobody can predict. At least I can't predict. And I feel that the people who are predicting are jumping the gun a little bit, because these things are only predictable in hindsight. You look back and say, this is how things happened.
Yeah.
But there's so much going on that I think it's difficult to predict. Now, what are some of those things going on? I think the foundational skills or the foundational learning that you need to provide to young people is not changing. And so fundamentally, I do believe that, for example, teaching people critical thinking, communication, the ability to write well has always been true and has to be true and will be true, whether people type on a computer screen or a mobile phone, or they speak on Zoom or in person. That's not going to change. And there you're right. We've allowed writing, reading, thinking to decline through the course of the decades and the curriculum, and that needs to be corrected. So the foundational stuff is still important. We need to re-emphasize the importance of that, and it's going to be even more important given what I'm about to say next, which is why the emphasis on something like Harappa, where I think that these foundational skills are extremely important. We focus on critical thinking or overall thinking, problem solving, communication, teamwork, and self-awareness and leadership. But that's one big piece that we should realize needs to be done, and needs to be done well, and it needs to be revived. It has always been part of our tradition, particularly in India. The multidisciplinary thinking, which fosters creativity and critical thinking, and so on. The second big thing that's happening, Ramya, is that on the skills side, we always had, through education, the need to develop certain skills so that you can fit into the larger economic engine of the world, because you need to make money, you need to earn a living. Right? There, the challenge is that the skills are changing. The requirement of skills is changing very fast. Now, imagine people who are 40, 50, 60 years old having to unlearn, learn and relearn some of these things. I think that's just one example, but I think it's constantly going to happen. At Harappa and in education, I feel I'm constantly having to learn things. And it's a challenge, because you wish you didn't have to change things so frequently, that you could just live with what you have and do a good job and be successful. So the requirements for all of us to constantly upgrade ourselves uh, have gone up, and the frequency of that upgrade has gone up. This I fundamentally believe has happened and is here to be there. Not everybody has to do it, but if you want to be successful, if you are a bit ambitious, if you want to do stuff, people will want to do it.
Sure.
The last thing is, and of course, by definition, because this is happening so frequently, it has to translate into the new buzzword, which is lifelong learning, right? So learning will not stop with college or whatever, or school for some people. The last thing is the advent of technology. And there, Ramya, I feel that technology is as fundamental to what is going to happen to education as the printed textbook was.
Yeah.
And if you think about what education was like before the textbook arrived and what it became post that, and I don't want to bore you with that analogy, but fundamentally, how lessons will be designed have not yet been figured out, right? When people prepared the first textbook, they decided there'll be an introduction, there will be chapters, and each chapter will have headings and subheadings, and in the end, there will be questions, and there will be answers to the question in the back, and they will be printed, reversed, so that people can't cheat, and so on. There was a format that came out for a textbook. I think the format for how to use technology to enhance learning is not yet done, and it's going to be. So I think these are the three fundamental changes that I would like to highlight. And these have to obviously come together, which will transform the way students learn and the way, of course, teachers teach, and the way administrators set up educational institutions.
So when you look at these changes, Pramath, and particularly as someone who's on one hand running a liberal arts university like Ashoka, and on the other hand a platform like Harappa, building skills like critical thinking, communication, etc. What, in your view, are the different teacher profiles or personas that might cater to these changes? Or how will teachers look, in your view, to be effective in such a scenario?
I think the teacher needs to understand that at the end of the day, in the way they teach, they still have to try and encourage the students to develop those foundational capabilities. So don't stop asking students to read and write, for example. Try to develop their ability to engage, debate, think for themselves, right? How you do it is your call, right? Each teacher will do it differently, and that's okay. But somewhere understand that the premium on these fundamental skills of thinking, communication, collaboration, working, is self-awareness is going to in fact grow. And so that can be done regardless of whatever subject you teach, whether you're a history teacher or economics teacher or maths teacher. You can encourage these foundational skills even in the context of your area, right? I think on the skill side, it will be important for teachers to see whether in the area that they are teaching, they are keeping abreast of what is the latest and greatest that is happening. Now, I can give you an example. A lot of the Ashoka students go and work in the corporate world.
Yeah.
Now, the people who hire them are saying, listen, these are great kids. We love them. And we love them for their foundational skills. But you know what? They fall a little bit short about understanding how things work in a business or in a real world, right? Now, we debated this a long time and we said, listen, it's also our duty to prepare them for that. We cannot say, we've taught them all the foundational stuff. They should fend for themselves. So now, to some extent, we've started bringing in some skilling stuff, which maybe even almost describe as vocational, technical, business courses and so on.
Sure.
But only to the extent that it bridges that gap. Right?
Sure.
And I think we as teachers have to be a little bit flexible and not pure about this. That, there is no shame in giving people certain skills that are relevant to the workplace. And I think the teachers can play a role by themselves doing that, or bringing others to do that, or at least giving people some sense of what the practical world is going to be like.
Sure.
And incorporating that into the class, it could be just as little as taking in school their students out for an outing to a place where they can see the real world application or manifestation of whatever is being taught. And this used to happen in the old days, and it can still happen. It is as relevant today and so on. I think on the technology side, Ramya, it's very exciting because suddenly now you don't have to just prescribe books. You don't have to prescribe readings. You don't have to tell them to go and issue a book from the library, but you can actually tell them to go watch a TED talk, or you can tell them to access a online speech or lecture. It could be a talk by somebody, listen to a podcast, and so on. And I think that part of it has become very exciting. And I think it's a great opportunity for teachers to reinvent themselves. And instead of seeing that as a challenge or a threat, I think they should see this as a great opportunity to transform into a very interesting teacher of the 21st century.
So that's very inspiring, Pramath. That's a very inspiring message for teachers, whether it is the 7 lakh teachers on the My Center platform who I'm hoping are following this series, or the teachers much beyond that globally. And it's a very inspiring message. So out of the lakhs of teachers who are engaging with us, there are some who get certified. And given that you have fond memories of Patna and you've spent your childhood there, we want you to do a special shout out for this year's Center Teaching Professionals Olympiad regional topper from Bihar, who is from Patna. And this is Aisha Alam from Delhi Public School, Patna.
Yes, congratulations, Aisha. I'm very familiar with the Delhi Public School, Patna. I've actually been there. I'm a very close friend of Mr. Sanjeev Kumar, who you might know, Aisha. And I'm so proud that you got the top rank in the Center TPO of last year from Bihar. So congratulations. And I certainly look forward to meeting you when I come to Patna or when I come to the school sometime. I know many of your students from DPS, and they've done so well globally. Many of my friends' children go there. So I'm really, really happy that the first shout out is to somebody from DPS Patna. Congratulations again, Aisha, and all the very best.
Glad. Thank you so much, Pramath. And Aisha was in fact also keen to meet you, but could not skip class. So we are glad that she's able to hear.
Her face looks very familiar, and I'm wondering whether I've actually met her. Because I've met many of the teachers in Patna when I've gone for these programs that Sanjeev, who actually started the school, organizes in Patna. Several of the teachers are involved in organizing the students and so on. So she looks very familiar.
Wonderful, wonderful. And Pramath, given we are going to request for one more shout out from you, and given your special role in online education and building skills through the online medium, we want to introduce to you Ranjita Bhatnagar, who is a teacher educator whose masterclass was recently accredited by Center It's a masterclass on designing smart question papers. And it's a fully online workshop for teachers who want to learn how to design smart question papers. And this is a special group of teacher education resources that are getting accredited. And in this context, wanted you to congratulate Ranjita.
Wow, Ranjita, this is fantastic. I didn't know that people like you existed because I'm going to ask my team at Harappa to work with you. You know, creating good assessments and good question papers and exams is a real challenge. Most people don't realize that. And there's a real dearth of talent to be able to put this together in a meaningful and a very effective manner. So firstly, congratulations on taking this challenge and congratulations on being accredited by CENTA. I'm sure that they really went into the quality of what you do. So what you do must be really good. And I'm very impressed, genuinely. I'd love to touch base and understand. I'm going to check out the masterclass if it's available somewhere.
Yes.
But congratulations and more power to you. And I think your skills will be very useful, not just in schools, but in online education like the ones that we are involved in, as well as in higher education, by the way.
Yes.
So keep doing what you're doing and keep pushing the boundary, because there's also an endless field. You can only get better and better and better at this. Congratulations again.
Thanks for the wishes, Pramath. CENTA, I mean, as an organization working to make teaching a more aspirational profession, is there something specific that you feel we should be doing in the coming years? I
think just doing what you're doing, but really highlighting the contributions of teachers, making heroes and heroines out of teachers. I think teachers are not appreciated enough. I think teachers are not recognized enough. I think the stories of struggles and achievements are not highlighted enough. I think you're doing that. But, you know, this is such a large country. There are so many teachers. There are so many schools, students. This is an endless journey. But I would really think that, you know, the more we celebrate and showcase role models, I think that will inspire. It's not like people don't want to be in the profession. I think there's a natural urge in a human being that they would like to pass something on to the next generation, to younger people. I think we need to connect to that with stories of saying, you know, wow, I want to be like this person, or this person did it. And I think you all are doing that by connecting to some of those people. You can bring those stories out. I think you're already doing that, but even more and in larger numbers, in greater prominence, I think that would be great to do.
Wonderful. No, that's a fantastic challenge, Pramath, and you know that's a core part of our work. And well said that you know, this is a large country, and this is something that we will need to do much more of and much more prominently. So definitely looking forward to more stories around this. So yeah, so with that, thank you very much for being with us today. And thank you for sharing your time, your stories, your thoughts. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure. And I must again commend you on what you're doing and some of the great work CENTA is doing and your personal leadership of what you're doing. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Pramath.